It didn't take much more than a bottle and 2 chairs to make a speakeasy. This is what Daniel Okrent said in his book, Last Call, The Rise and Fall of Prohibition. Today, join us for some stories. Get your own bottle, glass, or mug, and relax. This is Speak Easily, and I'm your host, Krista Stauffer.
It's right by me. It's very close. Yeah. It's a strange little neighborhood again. What the gas bill says Gahanna, everything else is Columbus, but we're Westerville schools. Go figure.
So where did they go then?
So my stepson went to Blendon Middle School.
Okay.
And you would think he would have gone to South, but
He went
didn't.
to Central, didn't he?
No, he went to North.
North?
Makes even less sense.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So
it's
we're
weird.
Huber Ridge, which is just 161 neighborhood north of it, Buenos
Yes.
Aires.
Yes.
Right there. And he's in Strawberry Farms.
Oh, yeah. So we're all neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah. And our kids go to Central. So we have to pass by the other 2 schools to get
That
to
makes no sense.
Central.
No,
Well,
that makes no
because they want to mix the
We live in the far south side of Westerville, and our kids are going to north.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Go figure. Yeah, well,
street, though.
if you look at the map, it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
They're
it's
like,
totally
you go here.
Right. My
And-
stepson came home one day after going to Blendon, and he goes, I'm going to North, right? And I was like, no, you're not. That doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you go to the high school right next to your middle school?
Oh, that's right.
Right.
It's connected, isn't
He
it?
didn't go there. He went to North. That's so strange.
Is he done?
He's
School?
done, yeah.
Okay. Where's he now?
He's just working, living in Columbus,
Okay.
living his best life.
Good for him.
Yeah.
When did he graduate then?
He graduated in 2018.
Okay.
So a while back.
Right before the
Yes. Thank
shutdown
goodness.
of everything.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for those kids that
Terrible.
graduated in 2020.
Terrible.
Like the drive-by graduation parties and
So
it was
terrible.
miserable.
All the social stuff they missed out on.
Yeah.
Was so depressing.
yeah. And there's no coming back for
There's
that,
nothing to fix. No, unfortunately.
And I had so many theater kids that started like their freshman year of BFA programs. They were like, I don't even know if I'm going to
sucks.
stick with this
Exactly,
anymore.
'cause you're online.
Yeah.
So stupid. Yep.
In these closed up dorm rooms. Joe was in college at the time. You were an RA, right, Joey?
I was. It was brutal.
Yep.
I was also an RA over the COVID floor. So, I got paid extra, which was cool. But
With the potential of getting
Of
sick.
risking your life, yeah.
a lot. I got COVID like 3 times.
Oh,
But,
jeez.
I mean, I feel as
Right. Superpower.
Kind of paid for it, though, right? So, I mean, that made it totally work.
Right.
to pay us, they just kind of allowed us to live.
I mean, that's
Right.
nice of them. Really, anybody allowing you to live is a
Right.
good thing.
Right. It was regularly like 20,000. Like, didn't do it. So,
Jeez. He's capital.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. We're supposed to be enemies,
Yes. Mortal enemies. Exactly.
right? Even though I think that was a sports ball thing.
Yeah. That we don't care about.
I didn't. I didn't go to many sports ball. Capital doesn't have a theater program.
Not anymore. That's what happened.
Oh, Otterbein did them in a,
Dun, dun, dun.
in a late night Jets versus Sharks. That was a
Shuts
combination.
versus-
Jets versus Sharks. Wow.
Sharks.
Otters versus,
Yes.
what was
Crusaders. Or,
Crusaders?
now we're the Comets.
The Comets?
Yeah.
I don't think I got that memo. Okay.
I didn't either.
It's a derogatory term.
Well,
Mm.
that's weird. They tried to change us to otters.
Really?
Oh,
at
it was
some
so
point?
stupid.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, it was adorable.
Yeah.
But he was like in a turtleneck and everything. We were like, no,
Can't have an otter
thank
in a
you.
turtleneck.
No, that's not scary.
Yeah.
Where did you go to college?
Arizona State. Yeah. So I'm from
Okay.
Arizona originally.
What
Yeah.
part?
From Phoenix.
Oh,
Yeah. Born and raised.
I love Arizona so much.
I do, just not March through October. It's
Well,
just too damn hot. That's
fair.
why I don't live there anymore.
My grandparents were in Lake Havasu City for
Nice.
years.
Beautiful.
So Phoenix was always our flying place. Excuse me. And grandma was a fan of the sun, I guess is a good way to put it.
Mhm.
She's still here. My granddad was the one that had skin cancer, but she would put baby oil on
Yep.
her skin
Yep.
and then walk 8 miles in the heat. She's fine. She's still here.
Some people are just made for that. I am not.
But you grew up there.
I did.
Oh my goodness.
And I suffered through many summers.
A
and
lot
said,
of
I got to get out of
summers.
here. Yeah.
Did you have the thing where the kids would play at like midnight? Was that a thing?
No. I mean, you could still burn your feet on the sidewalk at midnight.
Oh, fair.
So you're
Yeah.
outside, But I mean, we tried to do things after the sun went down, but it's still 100 degrees. So you got to pick your poison. I
Did
mean,
you
it was
do a lot of water activities then?
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
there was the local swimming pool that was open all
Yeah.
the time, and we went to that a lot.
Okay.
You know, went to California sometimes in the summer for a
Yeah.
week, so just to get away from the heat. But it's just the summer it was 122
Mm-hmm.
recorded. I said I can't live here. That was when I was in high school, and I said
my
I must find
gosh.
a way out. And my way out was grad school, and so I ended up in Columbus.
Did you go to OSU then?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a hike though,
Yeah.
and a very drastic
It was
temperature
a
change.
it was a huge culture shock actually being in the Midwest because I grew up.
Oh,
in
it's a very different.
It's very different. Yeah. It was good though.
Are most people from Arizona transplants?
Most.
Okay.
Now, my generation, people who were born in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s would have all been transplants. I wasn't, but
Okay.
my parents both were.
Where'd they come from then?
So my mom came from Anchorage, Alaska. So
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, she was there because my grandfather was stationed at the Air Force base there, and
Okay.
but she had family in Arizona, and so she applied to University of Arizona and Arizona State, and whichever letter she got first, she went there, and she ended up going to University of Arizona, which is
my
where she met my
gosh.
dad. My dad was born in Detroit, but had horrible health problems, and
So he
this was
needed
the
the sun
40s.
then.
You
Okay.
moved west for
Yep.
your allergies and asthma, and so
Yep.
they moved to Tucson, and that's how they met. Yeah,
gosh.
yeah. But I always ask people there, like I would never ask someone from Ohio, how'd your family get here? Because I'd say I don't know, 200 years ago they
Right.
showed up on a
We
whatever.
just got
we got here
here.
exactly. But in Arizona, it's a little bit more remote. Like
Yeah.
how? Why? Because the
Right.
state's only 100 years old. So
Oh, that's
yeah.
true. I grew up in Denver.
Okay.
So I was born in Denver, and
Nice.
then mom got a job at OSU, which
Oh, nice.
brought us here. But
Yeah.
yeah, I need the heat. I might actually retire in Arizona. Yeah, I do like the heat.
I want to be a snowbird. That's my
Okay.
aspiration.
When would you leave then?
You mean like
To go to warmer?
October?
Okay.
October, November. I'd want to go to Arizona and then come back maybe in March.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like do 6 months here.
Because
6
it would
months there.
get about to 80s by then,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Yeah, sometimes hotter. Yeah.
I like it though.
Yeah.
I love the dry heat.
Yeah.
We tried last Christmas to go to Sedona.
It's my
We
favorite
didn't
place.
make it,
You
but
didn't- yeah.
thanks Southwest for that. Oh
no.
Yes, Chicago was interesting for 4 days, but no, I love every part of Arizona, and I love the mountains. And
It's so diverse and gorgeous, and all of the Native American culture is
Yeah.
so beautiful. And I grew up with a ton of Navajo kids,
Mm-hmm.
so I knew more about that culture than I knew about Midwestern culture. I mean,
Oh,
like,
sure.
that was again, it was kind of foreign to me.
Yeah.
You're just all of the Scandinavian influences
Mm-hmm.
and so many German folks and like just cultures that I just wasn't
Amish.
Amish,
Like,
exactly.
what's
Yeah,
an
no Amish people in Arizona that I know
I
of, yeah.
can't imagine.
Yeah.
Mormons perhaps,
Many
but
Mormons, yes.
a
Grew
lot
up
of
with tons
Mormons.
of family. Mormon
Really?
families. Yep.
okay, so it's not just the Nevada area then.
No, because you figure it since we border Utah, that there were. But my neighborhood that I grew up in was amazing because we were the Jewish family. There were all the Hispanic families, tons of Black families, Vietnamese, Mormon.
cool.
I mean, and when you grow up a certain way, you kind of assume that things are that way other places. And when I moved here, especially I feel like in the late 90s, this city was kind of segregated. There were chunks of areas. I feel more so now, like my neighborhood is incredibly diverse in
Yeah.
we have a lot of Somalian families
Yep.
and all sorts of families, which is cool, but that's more the way I grew up than
Right.
these separated interesting
Yeah,
things.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We were really young when I moved from Denver, so I don't know. I don't recall how
Yeah.
diverse it was. Much more Latino population
right.
than anything else. But like mom in her younger years grew up more toward the reservations
Mm-hmm.
and had some of that. And my grandma still has a lot of the Native American dolls in
That's
the house,
awesome.
and yeah,
Yep.
so. And lots of vases. She collects vases. Yeah, which was okay until there was an earthquake in Arizona. Seeing everything shaking on
That's
the walls.
terrifying.
Did you have
No,
earthquakes where
I
you
never
were?
experienced that. No.
It wasn't major.
Okay,
I mean, it
but
was
just a little
very
tremor.
tiny.
Yeah.
But still, it was kind of like, I was in an earthquake. Ooh.
That is
Yeah.
a claim to fame. I'm sure I've never been in an earthquake.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to like
Okay.
bucket list that item. Have you been in a tornado?
I have not. I've been very close to a tornado.
Okay.
I was driving back from Indianapolis once, and it was really scary.
That is
We know it was close. We kept waiting to hear the train, and then we'd wait a little bit. I think that's probably as close as I've ever been to a tornado.
Yeah.
Yeah. No good.
Man, I don't Do you remember when we used to like sit in the hallway with the English book on the head? Like that was going to do anything?
Because I didn't grow up here.
Oh, you did? That's right.
So we wouldn't have
Yeah.
a tornado drill ever, right?
Oh,
I never
that's
had a
true.
snow day, never would have had a tornado drill.
Did you do earthquake
No,
drills?
never.
So there was nothing.
There's nothing.
Fire
Just
ant
heat.
drills?
Just heat.
Okay, just heat drills.
Stay out of the heat. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I was trying to think if school had ever been canceled, and I'm sure it was canceled one time because the power went out because you can't have kids with no air conditioning.
No, that's
but
true.
Never, of course, never a weather day or a snow day or anything like so. Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, when I got here, the lockers are inside.
You had them outside?
Everyone.
Oh, that
has them
made
outside.
sense.
Everyone has them outside. Now, if yours was in the sun, there were certain times of the day that you could barely touch it because it was hot. But yeah.
What about outdoor playgrounds? Did you have metal
Oh
slides?
yeah, absolutely. I mean,
you
lots
really?
of people don't have skin.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and you just knew what time of year that you just couldn't touch it. It was too hot, But yeah, I mean, they've tried to move away from that.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
but yeah.
Covered the whole thing with the
Yeah,
little shades
right.
and everything. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
It's very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we were, my grandparents moved, I think, in '88 to Havasu, so we were still pretty young.
Yeah.
And we met kids in the neighborhood that said they played outside at midnight in the summer. We didn't know if that was a thing.
Yeah.
We were also like, we're not
Maybe it's a little
allowed.
safer in Lake
Maybe.
Havasu. I don't know.
It was very much a retirement village. We used to go with the Kiwanis folk to go to the grocery store and tape coupons on grocery items. It was there wasn't much to do with my grandparents
Apparently.
over the summer.
Did you see the London Bridge?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Good.
yeah, it was right there, and they had a pontoon, so we went on the lake quite
that's
a bit,
nice.
and those were the good days. There were a lot of long days because I would stay the entire summer with them just to get out of my parents' hair, and my parents were performing in the summer, so it was sort of nice to get us away.
Yes.
Kind of like, oh, they were really smart.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have siblings then?
I do. I have just one sister, younger sister, and then she has 3 kids.
Okay.
So those are the loves of my life, my 2 nephews and my niece.
Are they here?
They are not. They're all in Phoenix. So I get home about 4 times a year. My niece is going to be Grandpa Joe in her elementary school's performance of Willy Wonka. So I'll be there at the end of April.
Willy Wonka Jr.?
Willy Wonka Jr.
Okay.
Yep. She's in most scenes though, because that's a big role,
That is
right?
a big role.
Yeah.
My eldest played Mrs. Bucket
Nice.
in Willy Wonka Jr.
Nice.
Yes. And then we saw Wonka not too long ago and just in tears, just recalling how wonderful the show was.
It's a great show. Yeah.
Were you a performer growing up?
No, just a
Flautist?
musician. Yeah, exactly.
Did you start with flute?
I did. That's been the same throughout. Yeah.
Okay. How old were you when you started?
8, which is a little too
That's
young.
young.
It's too young. If I had to do it again, I would not have started that early. It's
Okay.
probably better to start on a string instrument or a piano.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Closer to 12. They started in 4th grade where I was, but I also skipped a grade. So I was a little bit younger than my peers. So, well, I mean, I don't know. And yeah, it's just always been flute. I had teachers that tried to kind of draw me to other instruments that were more sort of scholarship instruments. The fewer people play them for the bassoon, for example, and the string bass, for example. I was tall, so, string bass, all those things. But it was always flute.
You like the flute?
Yeah.
Did was your family musical?
Not particularly. My dad had a beautiful voice, and my mom always sang in choir and things like that. But they were both theater majors, though, in college.
Okay.
So there's that.
Yeah, they knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, get that.
Yeah.
Get that fully. Is your sister a musician?
She is not. She's a very talented musician, but she was more dance focused.
Okay.
So she would never say that she was a talented musician, but she had a great ear. She played French horn, she played violin, and she's very arts minded. Again, did dance for a long time. Dance is hard. She had a knee injury and that was it. So she was doing dance education and then she decided to just do education after the knee thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so hard because there is an expiration to that career.
It just is. The parts wear out.
Yeah.
You don't have any choice.
And it's brutal on the body. I can't dance very well.
Yeah.
I mean, I can move. I'm what we call a mover in the theater.
Yes, exactly.
It means you don't dance
Right.
well.
Actors who move. Yes,
Please don't make me.
Correct. Right.
I'd prefer not to move.
Put me in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please put me in the back. No. So did you go to undergrad for flute then? Did you really?
I did. Mm-hmm.
What was the intention with that? Like,
To play in an orchestra.
Okay.
So that is why when you study an instrument like that, it's to get a job playing in an orchestra.
Yeah.
in the mid to late 90s, that was a reasonable expectation to think that one would get a degree in an instrument and get a job in an orchestra, because there were a lot of orchestras.
Yeah.
They were not out west, and that's why I knew a move to somewhere else was going to be inevitable, just for opportunity's sake. Again, Arizona is a very young state.
Yeah.
So
More established.
Exactly. I mean, the historic neighborhoods, the houses are from the 60s. So because think about it, if it, before that it wouldn't have been
nothing.
Roads.
Yeah.
So I knew that moving to somewhere else was going to be inevitable. But what also happened concurrently is that things started to dry up. Is that the opportunities, orchestras started to fold. Funding for the arts has always been difficult, and that time was particularly challenging. And so I moved to Columbus in 98 to do my master's, because that is what you did. You got an undergrad, and then you went and studied with somebody else, and took up orchestral auditions, which is really competitive. When the last time the Columbus Symphony had an audition for a flute spot, remember, there are only two. There's flute one, there's flute two, and there's piccolo. So there's three, but two flute spots. They heard 100 people.
Oh my gosh.
So you have to be the best person on that day at that moment. And what they do is they'll send, anybody can apply, and then they weed it down to who is appropriate and they think would be a good audition. Yeah. And then you go in rounds of 8 or 10 people, kind of like a cattle call, where I'm number 1, you're number 2, 3, down the list. They hear those 10 people, and then they decide which from that round are going to move on to the finals.
And so they can't even pick 2 from that round.
They could.
Oh, they could.
They could, but they're not going to pick 8, right? They could pick 2, or they could pick none. And once that part of your audition is over, if they don't advance you, you're done. So you've driven all that way, you've flown all that way, you've spent all that money to play for 2 minutes. I mean, it's really tough. And this is just the way it is. This isn't, this is how orchestras work. And part of that is to keep fairness. That if you walk out on stage, someone might have a preconceived notion on how you look or your gender. That's when that really started, is that there were no women in orchestras. Right. And so they wanted to do these blind auditions. But again, if you don't play precisely and perfectly, or what they perceive to be that the committee, then that's it for you. So I did that racket for a while, but you have to have a patron. Teaching private lessons and playing gigs doesn't pay for enough for you to be touring around the country taking these auditions. No. So it's a rough life. It's really, really tough.
Do they have, I guess, the equivalent of like an agency or talent management for orchestral players? Do they do anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, if you're a soloist, if you're touring around playing with orchestras, you'd have a manager. Of course, and you'd have a press person and all of that. But yeah, just the average person trying to get a gig in an orchestra doesn't. So you're doing it all by yourself.
So if somebody plays with the symphony, they're rehearsing, 3-4 times a week, and then playing for...
You'd have your whole season. You'd know that you're engaged for, say, 40 weeks, something like that. And then that also gives you opportunities to possibly teach or play other things. But so you would know your whole repertoire for the year and everything. But to secure that job is just no easy feat.
I can't even. No.
It's a rough go.
No.
Yeah.
So you went to grad school then for MFA in flute?
It was a Master's of Music. So they don't do, for whatever reason, they don't do an MFA in music for some reason. So just art and dance and
that's true.
Just an MM.
Yeah. So you have your MM.
I do.
M&M.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And was the intention then just to keep going and keep auditioning?
Yes. It was. And I spent 2 years, this was pre-internet, pre-social media. And I really think that my experience would have been different had social media been so popular, because I was trying to organize meetup groups for other people that were teaching and play. And that was very hard it was just email, right?
Yeah.
And for 2 years, I taught 40 private students a week. I built up this huge studio, and I thought, this is not a career for me. It's maybe a career for some others. So I had a really unique opportunity. My grandmother had a long, beautiful life and had set aside some money for my sister and I, her only heirs, that any education we had not pursued at that point, we could use that. So I actually did do a doctorate. So I have a DMA, Doctor of Musical Arts.
Oh my gosh.
And that is if you want to teach at the college level.
Okay.
So
you do have to have a doctorate for that.
Basically. I mean, it's if you only have a master's degree, as if that's an only. If you only have a master's degree, if you have commensurate experience. For example, if I'd played in a professional orchestra for 20 years, that would be I'd be competitive for college jobs, but college jobs are incredibly, I mean, there's 1 or 2 a year. So those are very, very highly sought as well. So I just chose the most difficult route each way.
Yep.
You know, which one had the most obstacles and challenges, I'm going that direction.
That's okay.
Yeah,
That's made you who you are.
It is.
Too.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's led me to the path, you know, where I am, which I'm very happy with.
Yeah.
So it's good.
What did you do then after the doctorate?
So I started teaching at Otterbein in 2005.
What? I've heard of that place.
Exactly. We love Otterbein.
So I
Go
just
Otters.
missed you then.
Yes. When did you come?
2000. I graduated 2002.
Oh yeah. I mean, you might have had a class with me if you'd waited a few more years. You know.
No, I didn't. I was a theater major,
Right,
so
but
I didn't.
I taught in the INST program. Do you know about that?
I
So it's
did.
the integrative studies. So I taught a lot of world music. So you would have had to take a 2600 class. And anyway,
I took really bad ones. I should have
Okay.
taken yours. Oh,
yeah.
gosh. Some of those were not
Not
fun.
great.
No, no.
But so I started teaching, and I don't know if do you know the musical Funny Girl with Barbara Streisand? So there's that great scene where they ask her, you know, well, we have a role for you, but we want to know, can you roller skate? And she says, of course I can roller skate. And then the next scene is her out flailing around.
Yep.
That was kind of my college teaching career. I was hired to teach flute, but at the last minute they had an opening to teach the Woodwind Methods class where you teach the oboe, bassoon, and saxophone. Remember I said I played bassoon, played a little saxophone too. I got really good at teaching that. And then they asked me, can you teach a world music class? I said, of course I can teach a world music class. And
How to teach world.
exactly. And I was writing the tests the week before and learning the material. But, you know, I have a few brain cells. I can figure that out.
You always
And-
stay one lesson ahead of them, right?
Exactly. And then once you do it, you can do it again and do it even better. And so I really fell in love with teaching. I mean, I didn't do music ed because I was not going to be a teacher like my mother, my sister, my grandmother, my great-grandmother. I was not going to do that.
Gosh.
Yeah. But I ended up teaching. I ended up really, really loving it. But teaching as an adjunct is a very challenging way to make a living. And again, I'm on the periphery of this whole world. One job comes open a year, you know, and I applied for those jobs, but they were in far-flung places that I had no desire to live in. I won't mention the cities, but places I just didn't want to live, you know, and be the celebrated flute professor and have a Walmart in the city, and that would be it.
Right.
You know, I didn't want to do that. So I was on that, I call it the adjunct hamster wheel, and it's not an Otterbein problem. It's a higher ed problem, you know, where they rely on non-tenured faculty to teach all of the things. And I was getting close to 40, and I said, you know, I need a real job. And I need something not only with benefits, but with upward motion, you know. So I did something smart, and I do that so infrequently. I always joke that I brag about it a lot. So what I did is I told everyone that I knew that I was looking for a job. And I said, lots of people have been trying to push me into arts admin before that, but I just was so focused on the flute.
Yeah.
You know, I was terrified to give up this thing that I had pursued for so long and I love and still makes me happier than anything else. And so I told everyone I knew I was looking for something, and a friend of mine was working at Jazz Arts Group at the time, very part-time as the orchestra manager for the Columbus Jazz Orchestra. And I'd just gotten married in May, and she actually called me on my honeymoon, which I thought was strange because she knew I was on my honeymoon. She said, I am leaving Columbus. My husband got a job out of town. You have got to apply for this job. And that conversation changed my life because
Like, let me put my margarita down.
exactly update my resume and everything. And the joke is that she told Byron Stripling, the artistic director who I worked with for almost a decade, that he would be an idiot if he didn't hire me. Well, who wants to be an idiot?
Right.
So he hired me.
Smart.
Very smart. And it turned out it was a dream job. It was a perfect job for a person like me with such a strong background in music, organized, people-focused, attention to detail. And it just took off. And I was really good at it, and I loved every minute of it. And then pretty soon after I started, we needed someone to run our annual gala. And I, as I often do, without thinking, raised my hand and said, I could do it. I've got all the skill. I knew I've done a million events. If you're a musician, it's like you could do development because of all of your theater stuff.
Scares me, but
but it's not as scary as you think, though. Yeah. And so I ran the gala, and it went great. And then the next year, I was artistic director Byron was approached by someone who took classical conductors and their patrons to Cuba, and they called him and said, "Are there people in Columbus that could pay to, $5,000 a pop to go to Cuba?" And Byron said, "I'm sure there are, but you should talk to Kim." So we took 2 groups, and then I'm taking a group for the MAC. In 2 weeks, we're going to Havana. So there's 35 of us going.
Cuba right now.
Yeah, Cuba's
What,
would be perfect.
about 85 right now?
Yep.
Do you need a production assistant?
No, I don't.
Okay, just
and
thought
my
I'd-
suitcase is full.
Okay, that's fine. I can't fit in there. I'm not going to even attempt that, but I'll offer as a production
One
assistant.
of the long, slender, folding bags you could fit in.
Fair.
Just, yeah.
I just don't want to lay at the bottom of a plane
No, that
either.
would be not
No, I'd like to ride on a plane.
Oh, yeah, definitely not a seat on the plane.
Hit a
Okay,
certain
yeah.
age and you're like, yeah, I'll take a seat. Thank you. That's amazing. How
Yeah.
many people are going then?
35.
Oh my gosh. And
yeah.
what do you do when you're there?
So what we do is, you cannot go and be a tourist in Havana. There is, this embargo between the U.S.,
Yeah.
a very, very strict embargo. We can't bring anything back. Whatever we're bringing with us, we have to declare that are items to support the Cuban people.
Yeah.
You couldn't bring, like if you wrote a book, you couldn't bring 30 books and try to sell them there. That's not going to work. We don't do
Right.
business with Cuba.
Yeah.
So we are there officially on our documents in support of the Cuban people. And the way that we will be doing that is through the medium of arts.
Yeah.
So we will attend concerts. We will go to the Juilliard of Cuba. It's called ISA, ISA. We will go there. We will give musicians mouthpieces and reeds and items. There is a daycare that the organization is connected with that we always include a stop there where we drop off donations there. My favorite part is the name of the church that is associated with the daycare. It is the Church for the Love of God. That's the name of it.
For the love of
Yes,
God.
yes, that's the name of
that's
it.
amazing.
But that's what we'll do, and we'll enjoy the
cool.
art and the culture and the food and the rum.
It's almost like a
and-
musical mission in a way.
That's a great description. The last time I went, some of the musicians described me as the musician Santa Claus because I brought all of these, gifts. And this time, I'm not focusing on musicians so much. I'm bringing aspirin and Band-Aids and because they have suffered terribly through the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah, they have really, really not had what they needed. So I'm trying to bring as many of those things,
Oh, okay.
yeah, for them. So yeah,
That's amazing.
uh,
And 2 weeks from now, too.
2 weeks from today.
You're looking at the temperatures every day like, yeah, I got this. I can make this through.
I can gain 75 degrees in 2 weeks. That'd be great. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
My goodness. Not like the Arizona sun.
No, different.
Are you a beach person then?
I'm
Are
definitely
you really?
a beach person. I love
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of countries in the Caribbean. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And you're a traveler then.
I am. My husband, when we met, he's 11 years older than I am.
Okay.
And he already had a son, and he said, I don't think any more kids are in the cards for me. And he said, if that's
Yeah.
non-negotiable for you,
Yeah.
I understand, but we should discuss this now. And I really respected that and thanked him for that. And I said, I'm 99% sure that is okay. I've made that decision without you before I met you.
Yeah.
I said, however, if we're not going to have kids, then we're going to travel. So we have been together for 15 years, and we've been to 15 countries together. So
That's amazing.
Man
What's
of his
been the
word.
best? Can you narrow it down?
it's hard. South Korea was absolutely incredible.
Okay.
I love that we went to Russia, and I don't know if we'll make it back to Russia in
Yeah.
our lifetime because of the strife over there. We spent a weekend in St. Petersburg. We saw a ballet company do Swan Lake with a live orchestra in St. Petersburg.
I mean, that's kind of like, okay.
Next level.
Yeah.
Next level arts experience. Buenos Aires, Argentina was amazing. Yeah, we've been really lucky. We did Machu Picchu.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Was it scary?
Yeah, I also didn't feel well. The altitude is no joke. It is no joke. And we really overscheduled ourselves on the trip. So we had been a bunch of places before we went there. And the altitude sickness, you don't know before you get there. Sometimes marathon runners are affected by it. And some people who are old and frail are fine, So it just doesn't. I especially on the Machu Picchu day, I did not feel well, but I wasn't going to miss Machu Picchu unless they were going to have to cart me up there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, especially growing up. I mean, Phoenix is lower in the state,
Yes.
but
Yes.
you get up in the mountains and Yeah. Even going back to Denver a couple of years ago, I was
yeah.
like, yeah, I've been in
I
Ohio
always drink.
too long.
I always drink a lot of water when I go out to Colorado. Yeah, because that altitude will. Yeah. But before we left, I went to CVS and asked them. There's some medication that you take that helps altitude sickness, and I think I was able to buy 5 milligram, whatever it was. When we got there, my husband was so sick, and I went to the pharmacy, and they had 100 milligram pills, and he still wasn't better. And I was finally at the point where I called the front desk. I said, I have a real problem. He's really ill. I was thinking they were going to take him to the hospital. Yeah. They came to our room with an oxygen tank, which they do twice a day, they said, for people, and he had a couple puffs on the oxygen tank. It was good to go.
Really? Jeez.
Yeah, the porter just rolled it on in.
I'm sure they're used to that, though. You kind of have to be.
Yeah, in that altitude, yeah.
What is altitude sickness even like? Is it stomach
feels,
or?
It's a little stomachy. It's you just feel nauseated like morning, like you just, some days you don't feel good, but you can do something about it. Like you'll have water, you'll have food, you'll have a nap, whatever. There's no feeling, but I always felt like I had a backpack on with like a 50-pound child on me, just a weightiness that just doesn't feel good. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
That part wasn't fun, but it was still worth it to see it.
True.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What else? Like, where's the next? I mean, besides Cuba, like,
yeah,
do you have
Cuba's
a plan for this year?
Yeah, this year is my husband will turn 60, and then in 2025 I turn 50. Okay. So as most of our friends, all in that same age range, are getting close to there, and we are going to do Hawaii in December. We have a friend who lives there, and she invited us to spend Christmas with her. Oh darn!
Yeah,
but
I'm so sorry.
Me too. In regards to international travel, I have a student who is in the Columbus Children's Choir. Yeah, and next summer they are doing Vienna, Budapest, and something else, and that's been kind of on our list for a while. I want to go do the Mozart stuff, you know, see all that. So I think that probably will be next. Yeah. We had a wonderful trip scheduled for May of 2020. It was to go to China and Taiwan, and it obviously did not happen.
Oh, jeez.
And the way we figured out that it was finally not going to happen, I had a former Otterbein student who had taken some classes with me, and I love him. His name is Colby Kindle. He's incredible.
I know Colby.
Yeah.
His name.
He's in The Wiz right now. You might have heard of it.
That
crazy.
Show.
Yeah, that little show that's kind of blowing up the world.
NBD.
So, yeah. So Colby was come from away in Sydney, and they were going to Shanghai, and it was going to be the time that we were going to be in China. Okay. So I was looking up tickets, and we'd already planned our trip, but I called the travel agent. I was like, we have to go to Shanghai, even if it's for a weekend, to see Colby. And at like 4 a.m. of the week after the shutdown or something, he Facebook messaged me, because it would have been 4 p.m. or whatever in Sydney, and he said the tour got canceled. And I was like, oh my God, I think our trip isn't happening. You know, that denial of those first few weeks.
Absolutely.
Where you thought, this will be bird flu, and we don't know anything about it.
This is a long spring break. That's what we kept saying. It's a really long spring break. And then it just wasn't.
And it just went on and on.
Yeah. What a crazy time.
Let's not do that again, please.
Never. No, I can't.
Yeah. That was not good for extroverts.
It was horrible. Yeah. I think the day of the shutdown, like the Friday when everything was just like really kind of hitting the fan, I think Ben and I got together and it was like, all right, let's make a plan. Yeah. And also, let's keep healthy so we can just have a place to go. Right. Luckily, we had the office where we could escape to, but I
think that was the thing too, is everyone at once facing your mortality is a very surreal and unpleasant experience. Yep. Yeah, my boss at the time at Jazz Arts Group, I know he'd be okay sharing because he shared it with everybody, but he was one of the first people that I knew that was diagnosed, and he was on a ventilator, and it was very scary, and he survived like a champ. He's a 2-time Purple Heart recipient from Vietnam, so he's a tough guy, but it was terrifying.
It's so scary. Yeah. And not knowing what to do, not knowing what was right, and the kids freaking out about stuff, and they were home all the time. Yeah. And, you couldn't go around anybody without being like, oh, are you sick? And getting COVID was almost like a death sentence, Yep. Now it's like, can we just accept that this is happening? I'm vaccinated. It's a cold at this point. Yep. Can we get back on stage? We're still canceling.
Oh, well, in choirs, not being directly related in choir, but I just felt for all of my friends. And I remember I went to oh gosh, I can't remember. First Community Church in Dublin. My dear friend Amy Blosser is the conductor there, and I often play for their Christmas shows. And they decided to pre-record it in November of 2020 to air on Christmas evening because they weren't going to happen. And I got there. I was playing a piece with, I think it was just one singer, flute, and piano. And I walked in as they were rehearsing, and I heard someone singing. This was, again in November, live, and I completely lost it because I'd not heard a voice that wasn't on a recording. When I was teaching at Otterbein, I'd hear that every day, right? I hear people singing and rehearsing and everything, and it really was awful. And they had this long stick that they for the 8 feet or whatever we needed, and so I put my mask on and I take it down just to play a little bit, and then I put it back on and terrible.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't like it.
We were actually just talking about that on the last podcast. That I think it was kind of the downward slope in 21, and we decided to have in-person podcasts again.
Yeah.
And one of the first was our friend Billy Zen, who's a local musician. And it was the first time that we had heard somebody playing live music. Just
Didn't it just hit you
weeping,
like a ton of bricks?
Weeping.
Yeah.
But it's also in a weird, sick way, in a strange sense. It's like, it was so good to appreciate those things again.
I know.
You forgot how much we took advantage of,
I know.
of all of that. And I don't want to do it again. I appreciate what we had.
We appreciate the lesson, but it was a reckoning for the arts. It was, who'd make a great interviewee is Angela Mellica, who, she's fabulous.
Yep.
And she went to bat for the arts to discuss how the arts are an economic, they move everything.
Totally.
Because when you go out for a show, you go get a drink before, right? And you meet your friends afterwards, wherever it impacts our economy, not just the ticket seats and all of the people that the arts employ. All of that came to really to be highlighted during the pandemic.
Well, and everybody else went back. Everybody else found a way to go back,
Correct.
but we still couldn't do it.
Yep, because we could not gather.
Nope. It was insane. It's just like, you guys are complaining about the stupidest stuff. Meanwhile, we can't get
People
back.
aren't working. Yeah.
But
I know some people who unfortunately left the arts and didn't go back, which breaks my heart. But I understand. You got to work. You got to
absolutely
have insurance.
And it kind of showed where the support really was for things, and that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
But speaking of the arts,
Yes.
you then took a job at the McConnell.
I did. So after 8 years at Jazz Arts Group, I ended up becoming the director of development there. And development is not as scary as you think, by the way, because it's not as transactional as it may seem. It's not me sitting down and saying, I need $10,000 for this. It's me sharing our mission, first of all, and ways that you, who own an oil company,
I have so many of those.
well, right, that you can support what we do. And if I know that you own an oil company, $10,000 ask that's
nothing.
what you made in interest in one of your checking accounts yesterday. So,
I should own an oil company.
everyone should.
Right?
Yes.
I'll get on that. That'll be the next.
That'll be tomorrow. Exactly.
Yeah, Boxland Oil Company.
Correct.
I'm sure it's going to be great.
It'll be wonderful. But so I
Buying the URL
right now, exactly, Boxland Oil Company. So my time had come to an end at Jazz Arts Group. I was looking for new opportunities, and a job came open at the McConnell as director of development. And when I started, there were 3 employees because they were just rebuilding from COVID. And then last October, I had this opportunity to become the executive director, and it's been kind of like being shot out of a cannon.
But you're used to that. You do that.
I do that, and I do pivot.
Yeah.
Right? I've done a lot of pivoting in my career, and I can roller skate, right? It's like, can you roller skate? Of course I can roller skate.
Of course I can.
Yes. So it's, you only know what you know. And the first day I was there, the fire chief showed up for the fire inspection. I was like, oh, let's figure out what that looks like, And I find that if you are very transparent and honest and say, I have no idea what you're talking about, can you walk me through this? People are very willing to help.
Absolutely.
And if you ask for help, I think it's when people have airs or pretend like they know what they're talking about that you don't get as much. I have no idea what
I think that's an age thing, though, too.
Yeah.
I feel like I do a lot better with that now than I used to.
Exactly.
Of being like, no, I really don't understand
I
how this
really
works.
need some clarification. I need you to explain this to me as if I'm a kindergartner, and then we can move up from there. So,
or do I need to understand this?
that's right. Exactly.
Does
What
this
part
need
of
to be
this
part
is
of my
pertinent?
knowledge?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I really don't want to learn new things if I don't have to.
No, there's not much room in there left. Yeah, it's
I
pretty
prefer to
full.
keep it of like things that'll go well on Jeopardy.
Yes, exactly.
Then
Exactly. Good
Song
trivia
Wit
night.
Trivia, yeah.
Right.
Pretty good furniture.
Yeah, exactly. So the beautiful thing that I inherited was the former executive director did an amazing job getting all of the COVID relief money so that the MAC is in a financial place that it has never been in the 14 years. And so I'm very lucky. It's much easier to do things when you have money. Much easier.
And you guys are so good at getting the community involved. And
That's a huge goal, and it's important to me as a member of my community. Is that's sort of how I was raised? Is that you're a part of this big ecosystem? So I never. It is very rare that I turn down a meeting or a phone call because I figure something can come out of it. Even if I say no, I had a company recently that wanted to approach us about being a fiscal sponsor for them. So they are not a 501c3, but they wanted to accept some donations. Terrible fit for us, but a really great organization that is now on my radar, and I hope to support in any way that I can. But again, nothing lost in a conversation.
Nope.
So,
no.
yeah.
And it's what we've learned just by being here for a couple of years is just how community-based Worthington is. And I mean, I love Westerville. That's my home.
Yeah.
But I love working in Worthington and being a part of this community.
It's the small town that I never, I mean, when I moved to Columbus, I downgraded by almost 1 million people growing up in Phoenix in this huge metroplex. So that was more small town than I experienced. But Worthington is the coolest microcosm because I go to La Chatelaine and I know I'm going to see people I know, and I go to the bank and they know my name. And it is kind of like being in a small town surrounded by an awesome, huge city,
And so many cool things. What are your favorite places in Worthington?
Worthington, darling. So definitely La Chatelaine. Huge fan of Joya's. That is definitely food wise my favorite. Those two places are really, really excellent. I am a big Pilates person, and so there's a Club Pilates that opened in the new little area up there. It is by across from the Kroger.
Okay.
On Wilson Bridge, just west of High. And I love the farmers market, the Sunday fun days. I mean, there's so much happening and going on. It's like a small town, which I just never got to experience growing up. It's really special.
It's so cool.
It's really cool.
I always remember, too, because, since we're from Gahanna, it was so close by. And I always remember Worthington was known as, like, the theater. Thomas was known as the theater school.
Yeah.
And, to have the MAC right next door to it was just like, oh, this is a supportive arts place. We like this.
Well, I have to say that the city of Worthington gives us a quarter of our funding for the year. Without them, the MAC would not, in its current structure, would never be able to survive without that funding. So the fact that the city sees the value in that is extraordinary because they don't have to.
Nope,
There's
they
no
don't.
reason. They got lots of places to spend their money.
do.
Lots of things need to be upgraded and moved and developed, but it's pretty amazing.
See the importance of it, too.
They do. So we, when the city calls, we had a wonderful party with Matt McGreevy when he left as the city manager, and they said, how much would it be to rent the building? And I said, your money's no good here.
Right.
We're not taking your money.
No. This
you give us the money
yours.
for the building. This is the city building. No. Thursday, Bonnie Michael is that tomorrow? No, today is.
We had Monday off, so we have no idea.
I guess today's Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Thursday. So Bonnie Michael is retiring after many years on city council. Same thing. They called me and said, what would it be to rent the building? And I said, not on my watch. No, no way. I said, just come. We'll set it up. So that feels really good to be able to extend that whenever we can, when city council calls, that we'd love to give them that space. Yeah.
Why not, right?
Duh.
Yeah.
I mean, and we'll have 200 people come through our building. I would love to think that all of them have been there, but I know there will be people who and that's what I love at those kind of events. I always try and make myself available that I can greet people. And if someone says they've never been in, I'm like, let's do the tour.
Let me show you.
Yep, I'm going to show you all the things.
It's a cool building.
Can I brag about it?
Please brag about it.
So it's 20,000 square feet.
It's that big.
It is that big. It was built in 1915. It is the original.
It was a school, wasn't it?
It was the Worthington High School. That's it. And the Kate Lalonde at the Worthington Historical Society found us an article from the newspaper that I was reading with no context or date at first. And it's talking about the new high school being built. And for one second, I thought they were talking about the renovations. I'm like, oh my God, they're talking about the building I'm sitting in.
Oh my gosh.
It is so cool.
Oh,
it was
that's
really cool. So we're working on our 15th anniversary is in November, and we're gonna highlight some of those things. So anyway, 1915, it's built. High school is there. They obviously outgrew it at some point.
Oh,
Therefore, Thomas is built, and they kept the MAC as they called it the annex. So they had arts classes there. They had theater things. Then it was just storage, and then it was nothing. And the before pictures are extraordinary because you can't quite picture. Like you look at the pictures, like what room is that? You know, someone did an extraordinary job. It's Hanlon and Rinaldi. They did the renovation in 2009.
Okay.
And the McConnell family made the lead gift that kicked off the fundraising, and this group of just absolutely visionary members of our community decided that this needed to be an art center and convinced the city and the schools, and here we are. And it's amazing. So 20,000 square feet. In the basement, there's a ceramic studio, a dance studio. We have a brand new dance floor that we used a little bit of our COVID money to get. That was wonderful.
Those are not cheap.
They are okay. Well, I'll tell you that story. Ooh. The story I inherited was that they were $20,000. So who has $20,000? No one, not us.
Our oil company will though.
Well, in your change in your in
New
your
business
Mercedes, in the coin, but. We called Harlequin the dance studio that makes the floors, and we said we're in need of this size space. And they said, funny story, somebody ordered one in Ohio and had to cancel the order, and it's 6 inches shorter than what you need. How would you buy it for $7,500? And obviously we got the credit card out, and yes, we will buy it today. So we got that.
Oh my God!
So that's beautiful. And then in the basement we also have more classroom space, which is becoming more and more. There are very few times when those rooms are not being used. I mean, it's just constantly busy. It's great. Our poor custodian is like dashing in and out between things, and he's wonderful. And I thank him every time I see him.
Yeah,
it's a busy building.
That's a lot.
Then on the main floor is where we have our art gallery, and we have an extraordinary exhibit in right now with April Tsunami, who's
I just saw that posted.
God, you gotta come see it. It's so beautiful.
Cool.
She's amazing.
Do you have new artists every month then?
It's about every 8 weeks.
Okay.
We trade out. So about 6 times a year that we have new exhibits.
Yeah.
And what's really exciting is we did a call for artists. And now this is not until I think fall of 25 because we're booked out really far.
Yeah.
I thought we'd have, 5 or 10. We had 33 artists apply to be featured in our gallery. So I'm luckily not part of the committee that picks it because that sounds stressful.
You're like,
so
good.
Can't wait to see it. And so that was very exciting.
Now, they're not just Worthington artists. It's all of Columbus.
We try and do Central Ohio to keep that.
Okay.
There's so many people doing great things that we want to differentiate ourselves, and that has always been what the MAC has done. Not that we will always do that, but for now that feels very authentic and real. Yeah. What's lovely is that we don't pay them to exhibit their work. That is not a traditional model of any art space, but we obviously, if something sells, we take a very small commission. And then we do pay them to do a gallery tour and often a panel discussion or some sort of other accompanying. Yeah. So we want to pay artists. That's our big thing. That's part of our mission. So
what is I know this is weird because you are a flautist, but what is your favorite art form outside of?
Something we don't have, unfortunately, which is sculpture. I love marble sculpture. Really? I will go anywhere in the world to see marble sculpture. Yeah, I love that. I don't know if it was from my first art classes, seeing the Michelangelo Pietà or whatever it is, but I'm drawn to that.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you? Do you have a favorite?
Oh, golly. Not really. I learned more to appreciate art working at the art museum. I worked at the front desk of the museum. I knew nothing about art, and I thought, I don't need to. I'll just show people where the bathrooms are. But I learned how to appreciate it and how to look at something more than just, like for me, it's like, what story is this telling?
Exactly.
I mean, photography is always a big one for me because I like the realistic sense of it. But trying to understand more paintings and things like that, definitely just painting is my happy place. Modern is fine.
One of my favorite things that we do are those artist tour because I have the privilege of every day walking by these pieces, but I try to always go to the artist talk because someone will point out one little thing that I've never even noticed. Yep. And they will explain what inspired them to do that particular thing, and it changes your complete way of looking at it, which is so awesome.
There was one day we walked through, we were doing one of the gallery tours and with Megan Green, who's wonderful at the art museum. And 2 of the interns stopped, and she just said, she looked at this picture, this painting of 3 women standing in New York. I don't remember the title of it or the artist, of course, because I don't. It's not on Jeopardy.
Yes.
But she said, that woman killed her husband. They're burying him right there. And it was great. And we suddenly were thinking of
Like
dialogue
you
for
could read their body language
Oh,
in a
absolutely.
different way. Yeah.
And it was just the coolest thing. And it actually inspired me to do a camp at the museum about we picked a painting and we made a play out of it.
Oh, I love that so much.
But it was a good way for me to stop from just perusing by
yeah.
and understanding a little bit and not feeling like you have to be an art history major to appreciate it
No, exactly.
or know anything about it. You
Exactly.
can
You
just like
can just
it.
like it. It's
Yeah.
really okay. And I think that's the same with classical music is you don't have to know, that Beethoven dedicated this piece to Napoleon and then he felt completely betrayed by Napoleon. So he scratched out the dedication on the front of the manuscript. You don't have to know that to like the Eroica Symphony. You can just love it because it's amazing.
Kind of makes it even cooler.
It is so
though.
cool. It's cool knowing the back. Pro Musica is doing a series called Naked Classics.
Okay.
Where they peel back the layers of a piece of music and they explain it. And that does make it makes it really interesting. Isn't that great?
I love Pro Musica too.
I do too.
A lot of
But I
my
interrupted
art
myself, which I
I'm
do
sorry.
very well. No, I interrupted myself. So on the main floor, we have the gallery, and then we have another classroom, and then we have our 213-seat auditorium, which is beautiful. There's no bad seat in the house.
Nope.
It's a wonderful space. And then on the second floor, we have another place to have we call it our corridor gallery across there, and then our administrative offices. And our largest classroom is up there, our painting and drawing classroom.
Okay.
And it's an awesome space. I mean, we're bursting at the seams, which is a great problem. It's kind of like you guys at your last location. You're just growing out of it. So
is that a thought of
it's
potentially?
It's my thought. It's no
Yeah.
one else's thought. But I have made maybe mention to the universe about expanding that we would absolutely make use of it. If and when we do something
sure.
else. I hate to
Yeah.
even say it too loud, but
Right.
I mean we could do more. I
Yeah.
mean, we're offering 50 classes per term. Yeah.
And they're filling.
And they're filling, and the problem is you can only put so many classes in a room, and therefore we've really that's it. I mean, 50 is incredible, and it's way too much for our little staff, but we can't get any bigger until we have more space.
True.
So we're going to just try and keep refining, figure out what is the need, what is the want of the community that they desire, what classes. We have every day instructors approaching us to teach new things, which is really cool. People wanting to perform in our space, all of that, which feels good to be wanted. Right? I don't know if you saw the Columbus Underground list, but they do a top 10 list of lots of things in the city. And it was the top 10 cultural institutions in Columbus, and the MAC was number 6. And we've never been on
Which
that
is
list
pretty
before.
amazing. I mean, considering who you were up against in this list.
It's the Wexner and the Columbus Museum of Art and King Arts Complex. I mean, it's all the major
biggies.
players, the biggies, and the Cultural Arts Center. And it's not like we went to our people and said, "Please vote for us." No, it was on no one's radar. So
That's so cool.
that feels really good.
Oh, that's
I have
amazing.
a question.
Yeah.
Oh.
Exactly how haunted is the MAC?
Oh.
On a scale of 1 to 10, an 11. Yeah, it's.
I think we talked
definitely-
about this the first time I met you when we were like, we've met before. How have we not met before? But
Right.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the building was built in 1915.
Yeah.
How could it not have some of the energy of the people that have come? I don't have any official story that someone died in the building, God forbid, or something like that. But I am telling you, I have heard things in there that don't make sense. I had this exact same experience in the basement of the Southern Theater. I was down there once. There was a very loud Columbus Jazz Orchestra concert going on right above my head, and I swear I was not there by myself. And I know I wasn't there by myself. And all of us know, we joke about the small Victorian children that inhabit that building, but also don't joke about it.
Yeah, we don't joke about them.
Because it's, no, they're welcome.
They're totally fine here.
If you talk to them, tell them they can stay.
Yeah.
So
We had, during COVID, when we were doing podcasts over Zoom, I was working at the CPAC at the time, which is notoriously haunted,
Yes.
but I'm also notoriously not wanting to meet any of them. And the ghost hunters we had on the podcast said, because I told them, I said, I walk in here every day and I say, I'm just here to work. They said, that's exactly what you need to do. But they also appreciate that you're here working for the arts because that's what this building is for. And so that's when you said, it's been the arts for such a long time.
no one has felt any kind of bad energy whatsoever, but the custodian, anybody who's opened or closed the building, you just listen and those sounds don't make sense. What are those sounds?
Yeah.
We've had the security alarms go off once or twice in my tenure where there was no reason for them to go off. So that's a little weird.
Kids screwing around, probably.
Yeah, the Victorian children. Yeah. So
We don't want to
welcome them.
see them.
No, I don't need any more evidence. I'm a believer.
good.
Yep. They're there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some pictures up around the building that have, class of aught, whatever, and there's class of 1920 and you see their faces and there's like Cornelius and Gertrude and all those old timey names. And I just say hello.
Hi,
And
guys.
glad you're here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you ever had ghost hunters in there?
No, but we should. That would be.
Definitely, we know of you.
We can
That
link you
would
up with them.
be
Yeah.
amazing. I would love that. That'd be cool.
It's one of those things like you don't really want to know. Like am I opening up
Well,
a portal to something bad?
And I think it would just confirm what we all feel,
Yeah.
But I would not want to start anything.
Right. Like, we're good.
Right. Just keeping that open.
Yeah.
Everyone's happy with you being here.
He had said when they talked about it, they went into an old opera house that they knew was haunted, and they said they were up in the wings, not the wings. I'm a little tired today, but they were up in just above the stage, and they recorded. Didn't hear anything, but when they got it back, they heard a man singing opera, and it's just like,
Where does that energy go?
right?
Right?
It doesn't, though. Yeah.
I just can't believe that a building that is that old doesn't retain something, you know? So.
Right. And they talk about, with theaters that there's so many outside energies being brought in. It's not that somebody has to die in the space.
Right. But I mean, think about the Southern. The Southern is my favorite theater in town, even
Same.
over ours. I
Yep.
love ours, but the Southern, I've become very good friends with Michael Hurwitz, who was essential in the renovating of that. And there is. If you ever stand on the stage of the Southern, if you look up, there's a very large panel that you can see was once cut out, and in the turn of the century there was a troupe that did something with a harness, and so the person was harnessed on the stage and he would fly up to the balcony, and that's how they had it. They had it, like the fly up there and everything. Michael found the trapeze harness up there, so like if artifacts are left behind on top of. It's 900 people. If you have 900 people come through every day for over 100 years, how can it not have some sort of good juju?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I love traipsing down that theater, all the operas we did there, and I got to go downstairs and be all around.
It's so much. It's so beautiful.
It's creepy for sure.
For sure. When I moved here in the fall of '98, that's when it reopened, and I can remember. It's weird, you don't remember a lot of things. Half your life you don't remember, but I remember walking in. Growing up in Phoenix, nothing looks like that. Nothing looks like that. I mean, there's an Orpheum Theater that is almost 100 years old now in Phoenix, but it's not. It would have been 70 years old then, not 100 years. And I fell in love. So beautiful. Oh my gosh.
The only thing I can't do in there, honestly, to me, the scariest part, second balcony.
You just look like you're going to fall to your death. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of those seats either.
I don't like really heights. I can't even walk out to the front of it.
Yeah. No. I try and pay for more expensive seats because it makes me really. I brought a group of students from Otterbein once and had a student have a full on panic attack. And I can't remember what we did, if we found her another spot, or I know she didn't sit with us because she was not interested.
No. And I think a lot of the operas, we didn't have anybody up there because it's just so, I mean, you are looking down. However, the acoustics in there.
Amazing. And you can't have a private conversation on the stage because we do that in rehearsal. Somebody be like, shut it, or whatever, and you can hear
it. They'll hear you. They'll hear you.
Because you figure when it was made, it had to be that way. How else would you hear the people? There's no making them, so.
No.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful space.
I love it. And I love the West End next door. And did you know on the second floor of the West End where there's the balcony that walks around, there's a sign that explains why the width of the hallway is the way it was, and it was to accommodate hoop skirts, because hoop skirts were quite in fashion when it was built, and there's a nice little plaque that tells you.
Oh my gosh.
And did you know that there is a what is that called? A time capsule in the West End? And unfortunately, I think we'll all be dead by the time it's opening.
Yeah, that's all right.
But because unfortunately, I think it was done in like the late 90s, so we'd have to be like really old. But anyway, I would love. I love stuff
so
like
cool.
that.
I do.
I
do
stuff
too.
like that.
Is there a time capsule in the McConnell? Do you know?
No, but we should put one.
You should do one.
Maybe do one for the 15th. That's such a good idea.
Totally do that. What would you put in there?
It's a great question.
I've never done one, so I don't know what the protocol for a good time capsule
Well,
is, but historical elements of the time.
Right.
I suppose.
Definitely. What, things that are common now. I'd love to put in something about the mermaid. Now, do you know about our mermaid? Yes. So we have some stickers and some things like that, but I'd want to put in some information about our mermaid because I don't know if the mermaid will be around how many years we decide to open it up, It's sad to think about, right?
I know.
If
I won't be around.
If we do it 50 years, I don't think I'll be there.
You might.
I might. It'd be really old.
You may not know what's going on.
Right, exactly.
You're not in McConnell, what?
Exactly.
Yes.
I worked there, but yeah.
Oh, that's
no,
so
it's
much
interesting.
You should do that.
I love that. It's a
Yeah.
really good idea.
Get some music in there.
Yeah.
Sheet music, because I don't know what you'll be playing it on. In
This is the
50
problem,
years.
right? Is that the medium changes every 5 minutes. It's a good question. An old cell phone be cool.
Yeah.
Because they'll probably do it with their iris by then, right? Like 50 years
sure.
from now, like you would just
What
think
did
somebody.
Back to the Future have us? Well, we're way beyond that by this point.
Yeah.
That was what, 2002?
Yeah.
Or was that 20? I don't remember when the future.
Or was
date
it 2020?
2020 or 20? Yeah, 2020.
Something like that.
Something.
Right,
didn't-
but
didn't
except
do
for the
as
flying
well.
cars, we have everything else.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, even watching that though, I'm like, no, that wouldn't have worked. I'm glad we
Yeah.
didn't do that.
Yeah,
I
we're
would
not
like a
ready for flying
hoverboard
cars.
though. Sometimes
That'd be cool.
Be okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you guys, and I'm so excited that we're a part of the same community and we get to work
Yes.
together on stuff. So tell people what's next at the McConnell, what's coming up in the next month, couple of months.
So
they
many
can look forward
exciting
to.
things. We're doing the second half of our performing arts series. So our season runs like most performing arts thing, September to May.
Yep.
So we have the second half of a series that I created called Cultural Connections. It was an idea that I had that that's part of the cool part of my job is I get to make up some neat things and see if they stick, which is love that. And this one stuck. It was the idea that we have performers of cultures way beyond European classical music, for example, in our community. And we want to feature them. So in the spring, in February, we have Gore African Dance and Drum. We have 2 West African dance and drum troops in Columbus. And the thing I love about Columbus is there's room for everybody.
Yep.
So let's have a third. That sounds great.
Right.
So Gore is coming in a few weeks in February. And then in April, we have a gentleman who is a OSU grad who is from Tanzania, who is a Maasai warrior. He is the most delightful gentleman. He calls her mama. She's not his birth mother, but she was sort of his sponsor for him to come to the U.S. through her church. And he likes to talk about his culture, and he'll do a whole presentation. So the presentation is called Growing Up Maasai.
Oh, wow.
And then we also have a group called Hua Yun, which is a Chinese dance company that, again, these are all Central Ohioans that live and breathe and work in our same community, and we will highlight that on our stage.
So cool.
Very exciting. We have quite a few bands in the spring. We don't always focus on bands, but we have a local band called Lightning Express that is going to play. We have a 2-night series of a band called A Hard Day's Night, and they're a Beatles tribute band. This is a very significant year for the Beatles. It's the 60th anniversary of a release of one of their major albums. Well, they're all major albums.
Yeah.
What am I saying? One of their albums. And so they'll do a 2-night, two different shows on the 2 different nights. And a continuation of our Exhibition on Screen series, which is a documentary film series. We're going to expand our film offerings next year. We've had some amazing opportunities come our way. Again, just fast and furious opportunities. And we have a really nice audience for that. And then we're continuing something that I started in the fall, which is a lifelong learning institute. And so folks come in. We did Wednesdays in the fall. We're trying Tuesdays just to capture a different audience. And it's 8 weeks of programming about anything. We have someone talking about the Intel project. We have someone in town who is an amateur musician who collects rare cornets of all things and does this fabulous presentation on them and plays recordings of them and historic and brings them so you can see them. Little bit of everything. Let's see what else. We have our annual gala coming up in March, on March 8th. I just had a painter reach out to me yesterday. She came to visit me today. She's going to donate a painting for that. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
And that is called, where the theme is the 4 seasons. So it's taking Vivaldi's 4 seasons, and we'll decorate our building in different, the rooms will be the different seasons. We have a wonderful violinist named Siwoo Kim, who is a proud Westerville Central graduate. Cool. Westerville North. I may have said that wrong. Anyway, Westerville High School graduate.
Yeah. Yes.
And he went to Juilliard and has an international touring career and soloist career with orchestras around the world. In the last weekend of February, he's going to play the entire Vivaldi Four Seasons with the Westerville Symphony. And so I stole him with everyone's permission. And he's going to do an abbreviated version of that to cap off our gala. So we'll raise lots of money for the MAC that night. So that'll be fantastic. And then
We should go to that. By the way.
yeah, you should totally come.
Yeah.
And then we end or kick off the summer with our arts festival.
I love
So
the
that'll be
Arts
in
Fest.
June. We made our triumphant return to the Four Corners last year, and we're doing that again. And we've already got artists applying, and it's
Is that June?
June. Yep, it is Father's Day weekend is the weekend that it always falls on, and it was amazing. We had 25,000 people come last year.
It was packed.
It was packed.
Yeah.
And the weather gods just smile on that weekend, so we can never, ever move it.
Nope. Keep it there.
The Columbus Arts Festival almost moved this year, and we were like, and no, they didn't end up moving. And so everyone's playing nice in the sandbox, and the city has grown up. I mean, there's so much happening. It's hard to, there is no good weekend.
There's not.
Until they give me that fifth weekend I've been asking for years in April,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be a little
funnier.
more.
If people are funny about changing the calendar.
I know.
But
Oh, I'm so excited for you guys.
Yeah.
I'm proud of the work that you're doing. Making great waves and things. So keep doing it.
It's a really great time to be at the MAC.
Awesome.
It's
And
fun.
where can they find information?
Yep. So McConnellarts.org. We're on all the social things. We have a really fabulous social media. MCC. It's sort of easy to remember. MCCONNELL. So doubles of the C's, doubles of the N's, doubles of the
Just
L's.
no double M.
Correct.
McConnell.
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 Exactly. So McConnellarts.org.
Love that.
Yeah.
And people can just stop in.
Anytime. Yep.
Okay.
The hours are posted. They can come and see the gallery is always open and free. And our parking lot is easy. That's real, by the way.
Severely.
Parking is seriously
I
real.
will attest to that.
Yeah, because I avoid places where I don't. Where am I going to park? I'm not going to go. So
Or to walk 2 miles to get to something.
Exactly, especially in this weather.
I won't walk out to the parking lot. I don't even like that.
Right. Exactly.
Well, thank you. I'm so proud of you, Kim. Thanks for coming out and chatting with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Boxland Media. Think